Hi and welcome everybody to this series of self-care videos. Today we're talking about Ayurveda and immunity, and I'm here with my friend and also healer Ramona, and she has been a big part of my healing journey. She is a Kalari teacher, Kalari Payat, South Indian martial arts. She's a naturopath. She's also an Ayurvedic and lifestyle coach. For me, Ayurveda has been a big part of my life. In fact, it was something that I was introduced to when I was 19, when I first started doing yoga. And what I found was that Ayurveda was so complementary. It became for me a part of my life. So yoga was part of an Ayurvedic lifestyle. And all of these practices that I want to introduce and all of these ideas are part of the big picture of what it is to be a yogi. Would you mind starting with for those people who are perhaps new to Ayurveda, what Ayurveda means and how it relates to yoga?
Thank you. Ayurveda is such a big science. Ayurveda life, and then Veda is a science, so it's like the science of life. And there's so many different aspects. There's the Ayurveda, it comes from traditionally the Vedic knowledge. One of the scripts is the Rig Veda that it comes from traditionally, and there's a strong relationship between yogic science and then Vedic Ayurveda as well, and we see them both coming from the same cosmology, so that what we call the Samkhya system.
Okay. And could you tell us briefly what Samkhya means?
Yeah, so that describes the way that we see the world, or the Ayurvedic cosmology. So starting from the higher powers, the higher energy, the Purusha and Prakriti, and then how that actually sifts into the five sense organs, the organs of action, and then also the elements. And then we get into the doshas, and they're the description, I guess, of how we can unify different elements together to then understand the external and internal world.
And it sounds pretty complicated.
It can be quite complicated.
It's a massive topic, right?
Yeah.
And I know that today we're really trying to create a tiny drop in an ocean of Vedic wisdom. I mean, how big are these Ayurvedic texts?
They're very old and very big, and they're very I guess complex in a way of trying to decipher how them, and a lot of them are in poetic language. So it's all about reading in between the lines as well.
Okay.
And translating that. So
is there a spirituality to the whole practice of Ayurveda and healing?
Yes, and one of the important things to look at, especially from the Ayurvedic treatment perspective, is how we see treatment. So some people look at the doshic kind of treatment philosophy, where we're looking at different elements in the body, and then we've got the sattvic kind of perspective of treatment, which is looking at how do we bring up all of these really light and pure energies in the body. And then we've got actually the more spiritual therapies, where pranayama and mantra and lots of rituals and gems and all these other kind of things come into, and how we can heal using those. And you can see actually yoga and yogic healing from that perspective actually comes into all aspects of those areas. So we're I guess where we can see that there's different ways that you can actually come about healing.
Different filters even within the Ayurvedic system.
Yeah.
And so for right now, in terms of what we're experiencing on a global scale, how do you think that Ayurveda can work for people in terms of helping to bring healing, helping to bring calm into their lives?
Well, I think it's about understanding what's actually going on within the body. From the Ayurvedic perspective, we're always looking at the external, internal perspective, actions and what's going on, and then also the environment the seasons, what we're eating, what we're not eating, what we're thinking, and then all of our daily practices. I think that's one of the most useful things that we can apply from Ayurvedic knowledge, is building a daily routine. We've got to know what our body type is to then understand how to move through the day, what to eat, when to eat.
Wow.
And I think, you know, one of the concepts that we can talk about maybe in another time as well is the tissues and the 7, what we call the dhatus, and they're the, you know, the blood, the muscle, and they relate to all of the channels in the body. So we need to make sure that we're clearing those channels as well, especially the prana channel, and then also the lymphatic channels in the body. So they're really important.
Yeah.
So kind of, I know that was
there
a bit
are all
complicated,
these,
but
I mean, there's so many practices. I mean, I love these daily self rituals, and that was how I got into Ayurveda as well, through doing Abhyang as a practice, this hot oil massage, which I'm still doing now. So I do that every day, especially at the moment. And you start to feel into that crossover between what feels like a spiritual, self-nourishing, caring practice for yourself, and also one which is activating the lymph, and then on an energetic level kind of clearing the nadis. And I think that's the beauty of Ayurveda, that it seems to cross over Western medical science, yogic spirituality, and also New Age energy practices as well.
Yes.
But you touched on just before this idea, I mean, first of all, you have such a great body of knowledge. I think it's really important that we're not all self-diagnosing, and if you're wanting to know more about this, then it's really important that you see a trained practitioner rather than doing it all yourself, because it's so complex. But I did want to touch on, or have you explain a bit about the Dosage System that you spoke of before, and this idea that you mentioned that everybody has their own kind of prakriti, and that there are times of day and types of food and rituals that are specific for everybody.
Yes. So within that Dosage System, then we have 3 main doshas. We call them Vata, Pitta, and then Kapha. And within those 3 are related to different elements. The Vata is related to the air and the ether elements. The Pitta is the fire and water elements, and then Kapha is earth and water. And all of those elements are constantly interacting in the body. And so if we know our nature,
it's like a tendency,
and how we came into the world, our constitution, then we can see when they go out of balance. And then of course different elements will rise up and be increased or decreased in different times of the day, and then also in different times of the year as well, with the season. So it's important to understand that, and then be able to feel into that. So sometimes we need somebody to help us, a practitioner to help us understand that. And then we also have that changing nature. So somebody might have more of a water and fire kind of constitution, but they might be going through a time where then they have more of that earth and heaviness in them. And so then
that could be related to weather, it could be, it's context related as well, but it could also be the foods that they're eating could change a bit that inner constitution and throw things off balance.
Okay. And that, along with their mindset as well, and their environment, is going to then change how that's going to be influenced on a daily level and increase or decrease. And of course, if we can understand that from moment to moment, which comes back to sitting with the pranayama, meditation, all of our yogic practices to get to know the body, then we'll know, oh, now I'm feeling a little bit like this. Then we need to go to what can I do to then help balance that. So that understanding of that moment to moment awareness, if we're sitting back and then
witnessing the self. Going deep into the self. I think that's what's so beautiful and poetic about this particular system, is that it is so important for us to know ourselves, to constantly be checking on ourselves, and to understand that we are part of a greater cosmology, and we're impacted by our environment. We're not these kind of self-arising beings that come from nothing. We're constantly in interaction with everything.
Yep.
It's such a beautiful system. So thank you so much, Ramona, for this introduction, and we'll have more on the doshas coming up soon.